John Bonham wasn't just a drummer. He was an eruption. Every beat he played felt like it could shatter concrete, yet it was never chaos. It was precision through fury, control through fire. He didn't play the drums, he attacked them. And nowhere was that clearer than on one track. The song that captured his power, his temper, and his perfectionism. A song that, according to those who were there, was pure Bonham. Angry, loud, and absolutely flawless. That song was Achilles' Last Stand. By 1975, Led Zeppelin were no longer just the biggest rock band in the world. They were exhausted gods. Years of touring, fame, and excess had left them physically and emotionally frayed. The sessions for Presence on their 7th album took place in Munich during one of the darkest times in their history. Robert Plant had just been in a serious car accident in Rhodes. He recorded much of his vocals from a wheelchair. Jimmy Page was deep in heroin use. The band's energy, once unstoppable, felt broken. Except for one man, John Bonham. He was furious at the long recording hours, at being stuck in a foreign studio, at watching his band lose direction. But that anger became his fuel. When the sessions began, he turned that frustration into fire, especially on Achilles' Last Stand. The song began as a Page riff, fast, relentless, and complex. It demanded stamina and precision few drummers could manage. But Bonham didn't just manage it, he owned it. He sat down behind his kit, took a breath, and played the 10-minute track in one take. No hesitation, no overdubs, just raw, blistering energy. Jimmy Page later said, Bonzo was possessed. It was like he was in another dimension. There were no mistakes. None. The tempo was brutal. Constant double bass patterns, shifting time signatures, and relentless fills that seemed to come from every direction. Most drummers would have collapsed halfway through. Bonham made it sound effortless. Engineer Keith Harwood recalled, "The studio walls were shaking. His drums sounded like thunder rolling through a cathedral. And yet, every strike was precise, every hit intentional." That's why Page later called Achilles' Last Stand the ultimate Bonham performance. For Bonham, drumming wasn't about showing off. It was about expression, emotion turned physical. He wasn't a violent man by nature, but he carried a deep intensity. When he felt frustration or rage, he didn't speak it. He played it. During the Munich sessions, his patience was running thin. The band was fragmented, management was chaotic, and he missed his family deeply. Plant remembered it clearly. He was angry, but he used it. He'd take that emotion and put it into the kit. That's what made him great. That's why Achilles' Last Stand sounds the way it does. Not just powerful, but furious. It's a song about struggle, survival, and pride. The sound of a band refusing to collapse under its own weight. And Bonham was its heartbeat. One of the most astonishing facts about the track is how human it is. There were no click tracks, no drum edits, no studio tricks. Everything you hear on Achilles' Last Stand is Bonham, live, organic, and in perfect time. Producer Jimmy Page refused to splice or correct anything. He didn't need to. Bonzo didn't make mistakes, Page said. He was a metronome with soul. The performance was so precise that when engineers tried to isolate individual drums, they realized they couldn't. The resonance was too perfect. It was one body, one sound. That's why so many drummers, from Dave Grohl to Chad Smith, still study that track note for note. It's not just technically perfect, it's emotionally explosive. Lyrically, Achilles' Last Stand was about myth and endurance, about moving forward despite the weight of destiny. But for the band, it was painfully real. Robert Plant poured his frustration into the lyrics, his longing to escape his physical confinement mirrored by Bonham's violent energy. Jimmy Page, fighting through addiction, played like a man reclaiming control. And underneath it all, Bonham's drums roared like a challenge to the world. We're still here. It was the sound of Led Zeppelin refusing to die. When Presence was released in 1976, critics were divided. It didn't have the mystical beauty of Led Zeppelin 4 or the blues swagger of Physical Graffiti. But musicians knew better. They heard Achilles' Last Stand and knew it was something else entirely, a testament to endurance and a display of John Bonham's unmatched power. Robert Plant later said, "It was Bonzo's moment. He carried us through that record." Years later, when asked about his favorite Bonham performance, Jimmy Page didn't hesitate. Achilles. It's the sound of a man who refuses to lose. John Bonham would pass away only 4 years later, in 1980. When the band learned of his death, they ended Led Zeppelin immediately. There was no debate. There could be no Zeppelin without him. But Achilles' Last Stand remains his defining moment, not because it's loud or fast, but because it captures everything he was: fierce, precise, unstoppable. In that song, you can hear every ounce of frustration, pride, and humanity he carried. It's not just drumming, it's storytelling through rhythm. Robert Plant said it best. That track was Bonzo's soul. He wasn't just keeping time, he was keeping us alive.